Hi, everyone. My name is Cynthia Sanchez, and today we're going to be talking about getting and staying on someone's radar before and after an interview or meeting. So, this process is divided into two sections, which involves getting on their radar and staying on their radar. So, first, let's discuss getting on one's radar. So, this involves, generating a sales lead or obtaining an interview. How do you get somebody that doesn't know who you are to give you their time? And that's exactly what we're going to discuss. So, there's 5 steps to doing this. The first step is going to be determining your reason to engage. This is the why behind your outreach, why you're reaching out to someone. This can be stated or unstated. Unstated reasoning involves there being a specific visible trigger, for example, a job posting, a project announcement, or request a proposal for sales. And then this could involve unstated reasons, which doesn't have a stated trigger for the outreach. And this could involve, this would be useful in scenarios where you want to work for a company, but there aren't any specific job listings or internships that are posted. This is also typical with prospecting and sales. And then another example of when you would use this would be when you want to meet with a hiring manager. So you offer, to work for the company for free in exchange for, completing a student project. The next step involves research, which is very, very important. It's extremely necessary in order to craft the right message for this individual. So the goal of the research is to be able to identify problems, pain points that this person is having in order for you to draft messaging that is relevant to the situation and context. So for jobs or internships that have stated reasons, it's important that you review job postings and document requirements, which would involve researching the company's websites, their markets, their customers, their products, and this will kind of help you guide you into creating the buyer's journey. So what exactly is a buyer's journey? Typically used in marketing and sales. We've discussed this in previous modules, but it's used to understand and guide prospects through their purchasing process. So the first step is awareness. A buyer realizing that they have a problem or a need, consideration, a buyer exploring and researching potential solutions. And the third is going to be a decision where a buyer evaluates their options and makes a final purchasing decision. Step 3 involves identifying messaging. So once you know your buyer's journey, it's important to kind of think about what kind of questions they're going to be asking, as well as the kind of follow-up. So how do you respond to this after you know these questions? And the way to do that is to use the PQV matrix, which is the problem to question to value matrix. So here I've kind of outlined what that is. So it's going to involve problems that they are experiencing, questions you can ask in your messaging, and then value you want to make sure that you're emphasizing the value that you can offer to solve their issues. So first, you're going to take the questions that the prospect is already asking themselves and you take that directly from the buyer's journey. So an example of this would be, the target thinking, okay, what's my problem with my social media strategy? And then the second step would be crafting a question that triggers the same thoughts, but leads to a yes from that individual. So asking a question like, are you worried that you haven't been getting the engagement on your social media posts that you want or would like? And then the third step here would be providing the value and solutions for their pain point to your messaging. So the example for this would be, I've helped other local businesses expand their brands on social media with proven results. Step 4 involves building the assets. So after you've developed your messaging, it's important that you build the assets. The messages that you outreach to that individual. So this could be through emails, LinkedIn messages, phone, voicemail scripts, and you always want to make sure that you're keeping these assets short. You want to make sure that they're professional, but that they sound like you, that they sound personable, and that they're not robotic. Step 5, the final step, is going to be running your cadence. So now that you've built your assets, and it's time to schedule the delivery of them. So it's a sequence of outreach that touches that are kind of delivered through different channels over a certain period of time. So here we have an example. In week 1, we have the first message that is email 1, call 1. Week 2 involves, that first LinkedIn message, a second email, and then the third week involves that second and final call. When you're running your cadence, it's really important to remember that it's not about perfection, because these things take time. Different targets and scenarios and contexts require different methods. So it's just a starting point. Test what works for your specific audience and learn to adjust. Next is going to be staying on their radar. So this is what happens post-meeting or interview follow-up. You have the meeting, but how do you stay present in their mind until they make that decision? So very similar to the first half of this module. So step 1 is going to be familiarizing yourself with the information that you need to know during the meeting and interview. Step 2 is going to be capturing specific details during the meeting and interview, which we'll talk about in the next slide. Step 3 is going to be identifying your value messaging, and step 4 is going to be building your engagement assets. The 5th and final step is going to be running your engagement campaign cadence. Again, very similar to what we had just covered. The only real difference, or I should say big difference, is the matrix that's used. So in this portion of the module, we discussed the MDF matrix, which is designed specifically for post-meeting follow-ups to help you reestablish that presence in that individual's mind. So here we have the MDF matrix, which involves 3 columns. So the first one you see here is going to be questions and issues to capture in the meeting. So these questions are going to stay the same. You don't need to change them. You just use them to guide you. The details are what you fill in during the meeting, and then how you will use in your follow-up messaging. You'll tailor those to help prepare you after the meeting. And this gives you everything that you need in order to write a follow-up to this individual that is custom crafted with intention. And yeah, thank you so much.